In the year 2563, human culture was modified significantly following a conflict from a long time back. Mankind is isolated into the individuals who live like divine beings on the flying city of Salem, and those less lucky, attempting to get by on the ground. Salem tosses the city's trash onto individuals underneath, and many would rummage the extras, wanting to find anything of significant worth that can better their lives. One of those individuals is Dr. Dyson, who finds a humanoid head among the trash that interests him significantly. He brings the robot home and starts fixing her, reattaching a totally new body onto the lady. Attempting to restore her, the girl awakens and is astonished to see her recently useful appendages. She strolls toward the mirror and sees her new body in surprise. The girl meets the doctor first floor, who's happy that she's alert, and shows intense consideration. About the cyborg's prosperity, Dr. Dyson gives the girl food after the long sleep, however just figures out that the cyborg remembers nothing about her past, not even her own name. He attempts to comfort her by showing her the city, and the girl sees the enormous flying design drifting over individuals. She needs to go there, however Doctor tells her that nobody from underneath is permitted to step into the city of Salem, and it's been for quite some time. The girl maintains that the doctor should give her a name, and the man chooses to call her Alita, who the girl keeps on visiting around the city and meets a young fellow named Hugo, who she enjoys from the beginning. The man's likewise captivated by her robotic limbs and vows to show her around the town. Hugo shows Alita to the most well-known game in the city, Motor Ball, and chooses to help her to play the game while acquainting the young lady with his companions. They start the primary round and Alita can figure out how to move as they go this way and that in the arena. The girl figures out how to dominate her developments and takes the ball from one of the players while thumping the man to the ground. Alita takes the risk to score the point effectively as everybody roots for her. Hugo is astonished to see her abilities and tells her that she ought to think about the real game later on. The young fellow takes the girl to his #1 area, a vantage point that disregards the whole city. Alita is flabbergasted by how the city looks from a higher place, yet the man tells her that the better the view lies overhead. Hugo uncovers that he wants to go to Salem, and he intends to give his best for accomplish his fantasy. Around evening time, Alita neglects to nod off, as yet contemplating her experience with Hugo. However takes note that Dr. Dyson is going out while conveying a suitcase. She chooses to follow him and find out where he's going around midnight, just to see that Dr. Dyson is getting ready to strike down a lady by ambushing her from behind the walls. Alita prevents him from carrying out murder, yet understands that the lady has vanished. An enormous man shows up from behind and calls the hunter warriors, which confounds the girl considerably more. Another man shows up as he bounces down from the housetop, and starts undermining two of them. The doctor going after the cyborg and figures out how to remove one of his arms, yet the adversary can strike back and thumps Dr. Dyson to the floor. Shockingly, the girl bounces towards the adversary and kicks him to the ground. She punches the man's face over and over until the cyborg stops working. The lady shows up too and uncovers that she's likewise one of the assassins. She goes after Alita utilizing her cutting edges, attempting to cut Alita into pieces. The assassin charges towards the girl by sending off at her. However, Alita can counter and kicks the rival onto the wall. The girl hops towards her foe and kicks her on the head, breaking the lady's neck as the body drops on the ground. The huge man uncovers that he's a giant machine and attempts to punch Alita utilizing massive power. However, the girl can evade the assaults and bounces onto the roof. She gazes at the huge man and gets ready to assault, bouncing down with an overwhelming dismiss that cuts from the man's arm with a strike. She then takes the doctor's sledge and thumps the enormous man in reverse, compelling him to escape into the sewers. Alita goes with the doctor towards the assortment community and the man makes sense of that rather than utilizing the police. The manufacturing plants pay bounty hunters to kill criminals who are recorded. The girl asks why the man would decide to take part in something hazardous. In any case, Dr. Dyson clears up for her that he used to have a little girl who Alita is named after, and she was killed by the hands of a criminals. Since that day, Dr. Dyson has been attempting to track down the man liable for his little girl's demise. His enthusiastic need to retaliate for his little girl is likewise the motivation behind why his significant other Chiron left their marriage. Simultaneously, the Specialist's ex is attempting to lure a man named Vector utilizing her female resources, as she frantically needs to get back to Salem, where she's initially from. The man gives her dark commitments, and advises her to give him better fighters for the motor ball game. Chiron gets up from the bed, however sees somebody outside her windows. Unexpectedly, an enormous man breaks into her room and crashes onto the floor. It just so happens, the criminal's name is Gruishka, and he works for the lady and her sweetheart Vector. Chiron gains from the cyborg that Dr. Dyson has embraced a robot girl, and she's without any help answerable for obliterating their whole group. The lady attempts to fix the cyborg, however the huge man becomes head by a more noteworthy power who talks through him to the doctor. Vector perceives this as individual called Nova, a strong figure from Salem, who requests the couple to kill the girl and get her body for trial and error. likewise assumes control over the doctor's darling and vows to restore her to the flying city, on the off chance that she does precisely the exact thing he says from now on. In the meantime, Hugo takes Alita to the motorball game, where she sees the contenders in the ring annihilate each other as they fight for the ball. She likewise discovers that an individual can turn into a last hero by beating everybody, and be conceded the honor to go to Salem. Before their discussion, Hugo's companions show up and lets him know that something has come up, and the man expresses farewell to Alita as he surges off in a rush. Minutes after the fact, one of the main bosses of the motorball game is gone after by a pack of men and abducted inside their vehicle, where they cut off the man's weapon forcibly. Incidentally, the posse's chief is Hugo, who likewise works under Vector as he gives weapons for the man while getting cash. They leave the body of the motor athlete with Vector, and the man uncovers that he can't permit anybody to turn into the champion, as nobody should be permitted to go to Salem. The following day, Hugo brings Alita away from the city as they travel into the open country, where they show up at the lake before a huge warship. Evidently, the aeroplane is from the United Republic of Mars, who went after the city of Salem during the conflict a long time back. Alita feels an association towards the ship and bounces into the water, attempting to go inside as it might uncover reality with regards to her past. The girl figures out how to enter the ship and makes it into the weapons room, where she sees a metallic body that she feels serious areas of strength for an association as well. Minutes after the fact, Alita is capable bring the body outside towards her companions, as everybody looks to her in awe. The girl maintains that the doctor should join her with the new innovation, as this will permit her to battle any dangers that might come their direction later on. Dr. Dyson rejects, making sense of that Alita is initially a Martian berserker made deliberately to annihilate Earth in the war. What's more, to this end he can't join her with the body, as he doesn't believe the girl should continue her past programming. Alita is sorrowful by the doctor's doubt and refusal to help, which prompts her to leave and discover some way through this excursion. Alita goes to the assortment place and applies to become one of the bounty hunters. She then hurries into the nearby bar close by Hugo, where every one of the hunters are accumulated. Furthermore, attempts to request their assistance against Grushka. In any case, her suggestion is met by mock as her adversary comes up short on bounty, clearly secured by individuals with power. A hunter warrior named Zappin attempts to humiliate her and mock her endeavors, which results in a battle. However, Alita can overcome the man and sends him flying across the room. That's what letting him know he doesn't merit the sword that he conveys, which is likewise Martian technology. Their clash makes the other bounty hunters become unfriendly, and they start going after Alita in a steady progression, compelling the girl to battle and shield her life. Dr. Dyson hurries into the bar, just to see disarray really taking shape, and stops everybody by threatening to not give out any more free repairs. He requests to talk with Alita, however the front entryway crashes open, uncovering a monster figure that has all the earmarks of being Jerwishka, whose has gone through numerous updates. The man assaults Alita utilizing his new weapons and powers the girl to withdraw. Grushka insults Alita to follow him as he breaks the floor and hops into the sewers. Alita pursues him where she shows up into a huge underground construction that is loaded with trash. She sees the giant cyborg and continues to go after angrily, utilizing her kick, yet neglects to break the man's arm after the overhauls. Grushka dispatches the drudgery cutters which powers Alita to get away. However, she figures out how to evade the assaults and charge advances, kicking her adversary squarely in the face. Grushka's new weapon gives off an impression of being incredibly difficult to manage, as the girl has inconvenience shutting the distance against her foe. Alita dispatches an assault as she jumps towards the monster man, against the various cutters traveling her direction. However, her body gets cut into pieces, as she can contact her adversary. Grushka approaches Alita while snickering twistedly, as Alita takes a stab at getting up utilizing one arm. With a last endeavor to strike back, the girl dispatches herself towards the giant utilizing one arm and penetrates the man directly in the eye. Grushka shouts in agony and attempts to polish off Alita. However, the doctor and his group shows up, without a moment to spare, and they had the option to pursue the giant cyborg utilizing their consolidated assaults. Dr. Dyson returns girl to the lab and chooses to fix her utilizing the Martian body, not able to see Alita get injured from here on out. The outcomes were surprisingly good, as the girl shows mind-boggling capacities in the wake of preparing the berserker body, which stuns even the doctor himself. Once more in the meantime, Nova sees that Grushka has fizzled, and chooses to execute an alternate technique against the girl. He meets with Hugo and getting some information about his companion, promising to send him to Salem assuming that he's ready to persuade Alita to join the motorball games. The following morning, Hugo attempts to persuade the young lady to take part in the games, expressing that she can bring in sufficient cash for the two of them to go to Salem. Alita concurs automatically, accepting all that the man says as she's clearly dazed by love. What they don't understand is that Zappin is watching them from a remote place, and plans to look for retribution for the embarrassment that he got before. Around evening time, Alita plans to get the tryouts together with the assistance of Dr. Dyson, who tells her to be cautious as it tends to be extremely hazardous in the competition. She tells the elderly person to not stress as she feels quite sure with her new berserker body. On the opposite side, Vector advises all of the contender to annihilate Alita and guarantees to give them a lot of cash for the individual that takes her head. Alita show up at the arena and plans to start the game. However, she starts taking note the antagonism from every one of the players and understands that something is off base. She surges from the gathering as everybody starts going after her and pursuing her from behind. Yet the young lady can counter the assaults and cripple a significant number of the rivals. Notwithstanding, the players keep on pursuing her, dismissing the game completely, while Alita attempts frantically to endure their invasion consistently. Simultaneously, Hugo runs into Zappin, who wants to kill him to get revenge on Alita. The hunter kills one of the cyborgs and plans to approach the man. While pursuing him as an abundance shows up under Hugo's name, the man attempts to get away from the hunter champion and show up inside an extension, where he calls Alita for help, advising her that he'll attempt to escape and meet her at the church. The girl hears this and surges outside the field while being pursued by the remaining players. Alita makes an honest effort to keep away from the assailant while heading towards Hugo, yet gets caught by the fighters as she gets banged to the ground. The two warriors attempt to kill Alita immediately, yet she figures out how to break free, causing the female professional killer to be killed by her colleague. She then, at that point, ties the last assailant utilizing a metal chain, and tosses him into an enormous processor that hauls the robot into the machine and attacks pieces. Alita comes to Hugo without a moment to spare and prevents the hunter warrior from killing her companion, yet becomes stunned when she sees a bounty on the man's head. Hugo attempts to make sense of that he was outlined, yet Alita finds it hard to pardon him later, gaining he was taking parts from individuals such as herself. Zappin pursues the open door in their contentions and cuts Hugo in the stomach, causing Alita to cry and rush in to save her companion. She diverts Hugo from the hunters, attempting to get away from inside the church. The man apologizes bountifully to his companion and concedes what he did was off base, regardless the thinking behind it. He tells her that he intended to stop this evening as he understands that he adores Alita more than going to Salem. Chiron shows up at their area and sees the two darlings on the floor. The lady is moved by their adoration for one another, adjusting her perspective on catching Alita. Furthermore, they plans to assist them with getting away. After some time, Alita comes beyond the church while conveying Hugo's head, yet Zappin understands that she's keeping the man alive utilizing her own blood. Alita takes the hunter's sword and slices the man's face, making Zappin shout in torment while she leaves the hunters, camouflaging Hugo as her executioner. Back at the research center, Dr. Dyson had the option to save Hugo by consolidating his head with a machine body. Also, clears up for Alita that Vector was deceiving her companion all along since nobody can go to Salem aside from the last boss. Alita feels regretful for her companion's ongoing circumstance, and plans to utilize her powers to make things right. Alita races into Vector's loft and plans to get revenge for Hugo, yet the endeavors were come by Jerwishka, who strikes her in the middle utilizing the toil shaper. In any case, it just so happens that Alita's body can self-fix, and she obliterates the robot's appendages with her blade and slices the man down the middle, finishing the executioner's life. She requests Vector to show her Nova, and the man becomes had while his eyes turn blue. Nova compliments the young lady for killing his group and accomplishing so a lot, yet cautions her that dissimilar to herself, her loved ones are not really immune. The girl kills Vector with outrage and cautions the man to not misjudge her, but rather Nova just chuckles and lets Alita know that he's anticipating seeing her. She gets a message from Dr. Dyson, who reprimands her that Hugo has run, attempting to move on to the flying city through the wires. Alita rushes to Hugo as he attempts to climb into Salem, and lets him know that this is a snare put by Nova together to kill them both. Hugo makes sense of that he has no place to run presently, as there's an abundance on him in the city. Also, going to Salem is the main decision. Their discussion is stopped when the city's protection ring is enacted and surges towards them in blinding rate. Hugo attempts to get around the ring, yet is cut into pieces. Alita follows behind and she's ready to get the man without a second to spare. Be that as it may, Hugo's arm falling to pieces, and he says thanks to Alita for saving his life, tumbling to his demise, making the young lady shout in anguish. After her companion's death, Alita keeps on engaging in the motorball games, turning into a competitor for the final champion. She goes onto the stage where everybody is applauding her name, and the girl focuses her weapon at Salem, communicating her conviction to track down Nova, while the mad scientist glances back at her from the flying city. The end. If you like this story, please subscribe to the channel and like it to motivate me to bring you more stories like this.